Marty Richards from Richland Tourism will be our guest here today on WRCO as we look at some of the things going on in our community. Not for a lack of things happening this weekend, Marty. Good morning.
No, December in general is pretty busy, and I make the same mistake every year. I think, you get through October. Not a lot of folks probably recognize this, but as far as visitors to our area, October is one of the highest traveled months. And we saw that in our lodging numbers this year. It was like, wow, it wasn't just weekends, it was midweek stays. And we've kind of started to kind of get that rep out there a little bit. Our reputation is that, hey, they've got a lot of colors and the trees look good and it's a busy time. And I always think then when November hits, all right, it's going to slow down now. And that doesn't happen. You would think I would learn. It's my fourth going on fifth year in the job. And I should learn, when you hit December, you're still busy, So, and last year when we had the 10 days of snow in January, where we were the only ones, literally the only ones within about a 4-state region that had snowmobiling, it stayed busy then. So, yeah, there's not really a slow time now. So, we have a lot going on in December. We have become quite known throughout the area, and I mean regionally, for the Rotary lights in the park. Richland Center Richland County Rotary has done a great job of, its 14th year. People know they're going to go there and get a really cool experience every night from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. The walkthrough starting at 6, and then the drive-through starts at 7. They've added a couple of special where it's drive-through each night, drive-through the whole night. And you can find that information at our website, greaterrichlandtourism.com. And then Santa and Mrs. Claus tend to be there on Fridays and Saturdays on the weekends as well. So make sure, whatever amends you need to make, Phil. And I don't. I'm in great shape. But
really?
Yeah, that's my story. But make sure, you get out there and make sure they know that you were just joking or you didn't mean to do that or what have you, but you can tell Santa and get your list cleared off. So
it's time because it's less than 3 weeks before Christmas.
When Thanksgiving is that late, it shocks you how close it is. And that's also, I think it's a part of aging that all of a sudden you're like, oh man, time's flying, because time gets so compacted with everything you try to do. But yeah, this was a real compressed time frame in my head, the way it's felt things are happening, that Christmas and Thanksgiving weren't that far apart. And yes, it's getting important that whatever error of our ways we need to make up for to get onto the nice list, we better be paying attention. There isn't much time.
It's time, yes.
And then this weekend, too, Simon's Rec Center, Simon's Recreation, has their Ugly Sweater Run. And it's really, it's a fun run. So it's a run walk. You don't have to be a great runner, thank goodness, so I could qualify. The check-in starts at 4 o'clock at the Simon's Recreation Center, and then the run walk starts at 5:30, and that's a pretty enjoyable route because it goes through the Rotary lights in the park. So that is as enjoyable for the runners or the walkers, either one. And then also this Saturday, a live nativity, I've been to a couple of those. They're really interesting. And Bethlehem Lutheran out at Rockbridge has really a cool experience, their journey to Bethlehem. And this is, I believe, their third year doing that. I may be wrong, but that runs from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock on Saturday. And they have other events, too. They have a lot of other things for the families and kids. So that's just a really cool experience out in Rockbridge here this Saturday as well. So, yeah, that is really become kind of a neat experience for everybody. It's just, just kind of that cool bringing you back to the meaning of Christmas and the story, the nativity story. So that's a great experience in Rockbridge for this weekend.
Recapping the fall, I know you had Pumpkin Fest and some of those events. How did they go?
Yeah, so we'll start with Center Color Fest in October, and that weekend was just nuts. It was absolutely crazy. I said we should never have, last year, I said we should never have Ithaca and River Valley's homecoming on the same weekend as Center Color Fest. And now I'm going to add another law to that, and that is we should never have Richland Center's homecoming on the same weekend as Center Color Fest. And I've got to send out a huge thank you to Jeff Barron's, band director. I'm not sure how he accomplished it, but he had almost what it looked like was a full band for the Center Color Fest parade. And they did a great job. And, I know there were a lot of those kids that just took off immediately, and then they were still into homecoming festivities. But the parade, so the parade entries were as long as there were as many parade entries this year as I've ever had in the Center Color Fest parade. And I really appreciate those businesses that take the time, and it takes some effort, I get it, to get your staff to be like, yeah, let's go do this. There were even a couple that tried and couldn't get enough numbers, so we could have even had more. But quite honestly, it was really a very enjoyable parade. We had that gap again. We're going to do a parade practice. We had that gap where there's an issue where for some reason somebody doesn't keep flow, but that's part of the gig, and we'll keep coaching people up on that. But it was we had the most entries that I've ever had during my tenure in the position in the Center Color Fest parade, and we'd love to have more, because that is one of the things that I hear the most compliments on that we do that's visible from people that attend, and that is that the Center Color Fest parade at night is really enjoyable. So, and then that whole weekend with everything that happens, Oakwood Fruit Farms always does their customer appreciation. I know that was chaos. It was very busy. And then everything else that was going on, the wine walk was really enjoyable the night before. So I heard really good things, a lot of high participation. I know the hotel rooms were full, or all lodging, not just hotel. But I know the lodging was full, and I know the lodging was actually full probably 3 weeks prior. So that was a high demand weekend for that as well.
It's got to excite you. I know there's been talk about maybe a new hotel franchise coming into Richland Center, and that can only make tourism even more enjoyable around the area.
Yeah. So, the biggest thing centering around that discussion is each summer now for the last, really since since we got out of COVID, I'd say. So since 2021, I'll go. Really since the summer of 2021. I will field calls in April, May, and that time frame, and it's typically a affinity group that has an interest in a certain car or motorcycles, where they're doing a tour, and they want to come through Richland Center because they love driving through the Driftless area. And there'll be a group that requires 10 to 15 hotel rooms, and they just aren't here. Can I find you one or two? Maybe in the summer, but and think weekends, right? So and we have a lot of folks that come home to see relatives, or those folks that are just coming to get out of the bigger cities. They're doing it on the weekends. They don't have to take a vacation day to come from Chicago or come from Minneapolis to drive here and get 2 nights out of the noise. So the hotel rooms, that is the biggest issue that I've been running into, is that groups that are, so like we've had Corvette owners before. We've had some tractor clubs that were concerned. They had to wait until the fall to really do it to find rooms. So we're missing out on big groups. And I had somebody mention to me, it's like, why would a group come here? What's attracting them here? And that's, again, the blindness to what's around us. Is there a Disney park? No. Is there a Six Flags park? No. Phil, quite honestly, we don't even have Star Spangled Celebration anymore, a community music event that draws this huge group in on a particular weekend. We don't have that. But what we have done since I've been the tourism director, and we covered this with the different tourism commissions, is our marketing is going to be geared to every day. I used to work straight commission sales for a while. And a little history here, and might make sense to folks. When you work straight commission, and you got that big account that you're counting on every year, hey, I'm going to make all my money for about 3 months in this one sale. And if you lose that sale, it's painful. But if you have a ton of other smaller sales all the way throughout the year, it's comfortable. Now, do we want that big one? Absolutely. But in our current state of hotel rooms, we could not pull off a Star-Spangled Celebration and house those people. So it's kind of that chicken egg thing, right? We also don't have truly a great conference set up where we could house, say, a certain group, say like Wisconsin Small Schools Alliance is one of them I've always thought of. It's not a huge group, but it is a group that requires several different small meeting rooms with a larger presentation conference room. We don't have that facility right now that works for what they want and what they are looking for. And I've been to a lot of conferences in my past career, so we just don't have that in existence right now. So we're getting on the radar for being a place to go, because, number one, people enjoy the outdoor experiences that we offer here. Except this morning, as I was coming in, I was standing outside. Henry had locked me out, which that's typical. I get that. I get locked out of a lot of places. And I'm standing out there in the wind and, 14 degrees, 15, whatever it was. It reminded me why I didn't farm again. But every other day of the year, like I said, last year was snowmobiling. We had people from Iowa, Minnesota, Michigan that came here to go snowmobiling because they couldn't go up north all year long. They couldn't go. In the summer, it's our hiking, kayaking, biking options. People come here to enjoy what our residents enjoy every day, but they can only do it for about 2 to 3 days, and that is our how we are making our money now. But if we ever want to be that kind of location where we're going to be able to attract groups, good-sized groups, so I'm talking, anywhere from 100 to 200 attendees, to a conference or to an affinity group that comes here, we are going to need more hotel rooms.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely, and that's hopefully down the pike. Some other things here in December. You've got a few more things before Christmas to look at.
We do. Lone Rock's doing a pretty cool event, excuse me, with their Festival of Trees on Saturday, December 14th. Santa will be there as well, although that's cutting it close. He might be finalizing his list 10 days out, but I'll bet you he's a last-minute guy, too. But they have a chili lunch there. Santa will be there. They will be offering fire truck rides, which, if I was anywhere from 2 years old up to about 16, I'd be in on that. So they are having, and also a craft fair there, too. Again, that's at 8 o'clock at the Lone Rock Community Center. That starts, and then the next day, this is a big event. The next day, the Richland County Performing Arts Council is sponsoring Maggie May, who is performing at the City Auditorium. 1 o'clock, the doors open. 2 o'clock, the show kicks off. Now, I can always tell when there's interest in something, and I start getting questions either by phone or social media about an event. I've been getting quite a few questions, and I've chatted with that group, and the ticket sales have been pretty strong. Maggie May, have you ever seen her perform?
Yes, I have. I've introduced him a couple of times.
Okay, yeah. So, I'm not a huge country, Americana music fan, but my dad, who's passed away, loved going to see her and talked about her skill set. Mm-hmm. And that she could play almost any instrument, it sounds like. Is that right?
She's very good that way, and I think her biggest attribute, though, is just her stage presence.
The energy.
Just the energy that she brings.
Yep.
Just draws people in.
And this is going to draw a lot of people from out of town again. So this is beautiful for overnight stays, too.
Sure.
And what we would encourage, a couple of things. So folks need to understand, the seating is not assigned. It's festival seating. So when you get there, the doors will open at 1 o'clock. And now, for anybody that says, oh, that's crazy, they don't have assigned seating, I just want you to know, I can remember standing out in Central Avenue waiting to get in for the Chieftones back in 1970, whatever.
Yep, I was there.
Yep. And we stood out there outside the doors before they opened, so then we could go in and find our seat. So if you're concerned about where your seat's at, I would say at 1 o'clock, I would be at the City Auditorium that day on Sunday, December 15th. And this has been underplayed. Elvis is going to be there.
Yeah, I heard about that.
True story.
Yeah.
Leroy Elvis Peterson will be there. I didn't say what Elvis, but Elvis will be there.
Right.
As a guest artist as well. It'll be Maggie May, the Sawmill Creek Band, and special guest Elvis will be there. That show, the tickets are selling quite strongly. I would encourage, if you're sitting there at a 90%, hey, we want to go to that, I would buy the tickets, because that's gonna be a busy one. There's high demand on it, and what I would encourage is make a day out of it. Come into town, get something to eat at one of the restaurants, dining establishments. That day, Richland Center Family Restaurant will be open. Los Amigos 2 will be open. La Furtanga will be open. They can take care of you, and then go to the show. So get up there by 1 o'clock so that you're there for the door open. And then afterwards, start at 2. The show is going to be a good 2+ hours. I think I would, if I had to wager how long it's going to run, I would say 2.5 hours. Does that seem to ring true for you?
That'd be
typically?
about right. Yeah,
about 2.5 hours. And guess what happens? At 6 o'clock. Well, the Rotary lights in the park. So then you could make a whole day of it in Richland Center, and then you could even stay overnight if you wanted to. So it's really a cool event that the Richland Center Performing Arts Council has put together. Maggie May in herself draws quite a few people, and we're excited for that. You can get tickets through Eventbrite or Christie's Sunnyside Cafe, Deli, Bakery. Sorry, Christy. It's Christie's Sunnyside Bakery and Deli.
And Cafe.
And Cafe.
Yeah.
Okay. Kent, we got to work on that name a little bit. But anyway, there's tickets available at other outlets as well. But we do encourage that you get your tickets early. I mean, it's coming up. That's December 15th. So we're not that far, right? The short calendar again. We're not that far out. And I know there's been a ton of out-of-town interest. So, and then also, winter solstice is coming up. And out at Keewaydin Farms, Driftless Curiosity does a really nice job of celebrating the winter solstice. They'll have a spiral walk, winter wreath making workshop. Also, they do cross-country skiing or hiking, depending on where we're at on the weather at that point. And they also do some demos of like elderberry syrup making and other things. And then they'll have hot drinks and snacks as well. And then also out at Frank's Hill, I haven't gotten the details on it, but at Frank's Hill down by Muscadet there, the Three Eagles Foundation typically also has a winter solstice observation as well. And I haven't gotten that one yet, but there's a couple of winter solstice opportunities, which, I know some folks kind of get concerned, well, is that taking away from the religious observation? The way I look at it is that's the shortest day of the year. Every day after that, I'm getting more sunlight.
That's true.
And
yeah,
that's worth observing in my book.
Yes, it is. Lots of things going on there for that as well. And Richland Center Parks and Rec, they've got something going on too, don't they?
Yeah, they've got a winter solstice river hike on the 21st as well. Starts at 2 o'clock, and you can kind of register on that with the Richland Center Park and Rec Department as well. I've really enjoyed Jody Meaden being involved with the Richland Center Park and Rec because she's been real proactive to make sure we have events and that things are going well. One of the hiccups we ran into last year, because there's always hiccups, and I even said I'm willing to talk about things we need to improve on during our discussion. One of the hiccups we had last year was when we had snow. The Ramada Hotel was full of snowmobilers, but there is no marked trail from the Ramada now to the snowmobile trail. And so we had visitors kind of like, okay, where do we go from here? And going down Highway 14 is not an option, so don't do that. But this year, Jody and I, and then Eric Simandl from the Richland County Snowmobile Alliance, we went out, kind of walked that area, and found a way that we can get a kind of a, not groomed, but it'll be marked, and it'll work quite well to get them to the trail, which pops out. Really, all it is going down the Pine River Trail just a little bit on each side. One direction on the right side, coming back on the left side. And then once you cross Bowman Drive, there's city land that you can get onto and then get to the trail. And so we'll have that marked. We don't know, right? With weather, we could, in a week, all of a sudden a storm front comes through and we could have 7 inches of snow. This year, what's different, our ground is cold. It's hard and it's frozen. So if snow comes, it'll stay. And that, I know from snowmobiling perspective, I'm a member of the Ridge and Valley Renegades, and that seems like that's our biggest struggle each year, is that we'll get snow, but then we'll lose a bunch of it because the ground isn't frozen. Well, the ground's frozen. We had this cold snap, and as long as it doesn't heat up to 50 degrees or stay at a extended warmer temperatures, once we get snow, we'll be in good shape.
Are they marking the trails then?
Well, they always kind of wait until after deer hunting season because that, you don't want to be out there during deer hunting season marking trails. But that will start quite quickly here now. And, of course, so then the negative to having frozen ground that snow will stick to is putting posts in. I know Dustin Wanless does a lot of work on that and has in the past. There's a lot of guys that do, but Dustin and I have talked about it. And he said, it's a catch-22. It'd be nice to put them in before they're frozen, but we can't do it before deer hunting. And usually after deer hunting, the ground's frozen. So you're out there with a cordless drill, drilling holes just to put posts in. So, but it's, we're really fortunate that we have the Snowmobile Alliance and the clubs we have in Richland County. Some counties really struggle with marking trails. We are really fortunate that we've had decent membership and really good engagement with our local snowmobilers, but we can always have more. And we would really like to see those who do have snowmobiles and ride the trails in the area, that they join a club. It's really affordable, but it's also nice camaraderie, and it's also nice to have another set of hands. And you don't have to help with everything. It's just, or every day, it's just help at some point that really makes it a lighter load for everybody else.
Our local snow predictors are predicting about 40 more, so there's a good chance that the trails will be open somewhere along the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a quick time out. We heard a word from our imaginary friends, and we're...
Yeah, I'm not sure what they were selling, but...
I don't know either.
But it sounded like it was free.
It sounded like it was something good. Marty Richards from Greater Richland Tourism is our guest here on WRCO Radio as we talk about some of the numbers. I know you can really tell from your website visits, and were numbers up again this year?
Yeah, so what we do, we have a marketing campaign, and meaning when I say campaign, it's not, okay, we're going to just throw this out here and maybe put a billboard here or just, throw it against the wall, see what it sticks. That's not what we're doing. We are running a true campaign where we know what works, we're managing that, and we are just constantly the same drumbeat of, you'll find it here. What is that experience? And then we use print advertising. We use digital streaming advertising. We also use a lot of, the streaming advertising is really one that's moved the needle. And that is targeting people in Milwaukee and now Chicago areas that are interested in outdoor experiences such as hiking, kayaking, biking, snowshoeing, snowmobiling, hunting, fishing. We target those individuals in certain areas within the age demographic that we know they are potential guests. So we're doing that through streaming advertising. We're doing that in print publications that we know those same folks read. And then we do a little bit of digital billboard broadcast in those same areas, though. And then, of course, our social media side. So we have a true marketing campaign that has a constant brand and a constant message, and that is to find that opportunity they're looking for here. So what happens then is we are able to measure two different ways our effectiveness. Number one is through our website views, and that's kind of an immediate measure. We can see immediately, is something working or not, and then it has, we've learned now, it predicts. Then the next year we can see there has been an increase in visitor spending in our area in direct correlation to the increase of the website visitors. So in 2023, so all of last year, we had over 57,000 new or unique visits to our website. So 57,436 new people, and new meaning they hadn't been on the website for 90 days. So 57, think about that for a second. Our population in the county is somewhere around 18,000. So that's not Richland County residents going to it. Those are the people that we've been messaging to have them come in and check us out. So 57,436 people came, new visitors, in 2023. As of the end of October this year, our website saw 73,340 visitors come to the website. That's a huge jump. And when you start to look at that on a graph, it's stark. And that's been happening really since 2022. So, and that directly correlates with when we really started our marketing campaign that we are running now in whole, with all of our resource that we have. Because the first year in 2022, we had 28,457 visitors. Well, since then, every year we're like gaining almost 30,000 visitors to the website. So that's a big number. I'm always reminded at one of our tourism commission meetings, I had somebody on the tourism commission say, well, that's nice. Those numbers are nice. That means people are checking us out. We like that. But does that correlate then to sales or to people coming here and spending dollars? So fortunately, if I had to measure that, I don't know how I'd begin doing it. However, through Travel Wisconsin or Wisconsin Travel, the Department of Revenue, State Wisconsin Department of Revenue, they have all of the sales tax figures for Richland County, and they do this for every county. So in June of every year, we get a report from them that tells us, okay, what was your spending by visitors? And they have a matrix. They have a percentage that applies to different areas of spending. So say like, lodging is going to be a high. It's like 90%. You get 90% credit of the lodging. At dining, you get like 50%. Entertainment, you get like 50% because, of course, locals are using that too. But what's funny is anytime I talk to Tony at Starlight 14 or Center Cinemas, he always says, no, about 60% of our people that come here, and I hear the same figure from dining, 60% of those who come and spend money are not from this area because they get point of sale. If you use a credit card, they get your zip code, they know where you're coming from, and they get a sales report on that. So from Department of Revenue now, we're getting all the reports of sales in Richland County, and then they can tell us how much that's changing. So we'll go back to 2021 because that's when we first started seeing an increase. In 2021, there was just over $22 million spent in direct visitor spending to Richland County. In 2022, there was just over $25 million. So there was a $3 million increase in spending in those categories of direct visitor spending in Richland County. And then again, in 2023, there was an increase to $27,200, so almost another $2 million increase in that year. So we're seeing year-over-year increases. Now that's for 2023, right? So if you put those two graphs together and look at them, the website visits, new website visits, and the money spent in the county by visitors, they directly correlate, the increase. So we're seeing big increases in not just the people interested in our area that's looking for information, but we are looking at a big increase in those coming to the area and spending money, which from the sales tax, county sales tax perspective, that's huge for Richland County. And that's not money that came from residents. That's came from visitors. So that's taking money out of another economy and bringing it to our area and supporting our small businesses, and then also supporting those they employ. So it's really good news. I've got a couple I've got a couple of areas in the state that have reached out and said, how are you doing this? Because they're not seeing that kind of increase. And honestly, in 2023, it was a little unusual because Richland County's direct visitor spending outpaced 58 other counties. That's not happened before. But also, very few other areas, rural areas, have figured out that they need to brand and market their own space. Now, I've noticed in the last year, Sauk County's kind of figured that out a little bit. You know, it used to be they were compartmentalized. It was Wisconsin Dells, Lake Delton, and then the others kind of stood alone and did their own thing. And now Sauk County Development is starting to do that, where they're marketing the whole of the county, which is a little more difficult for them because what attracts people to the Lake Delton, Wisconsin Dells area is very different from what might attract them to, you know, the western, getting out in more of the rural areas. So it's a little trickier for them to do that. For Richland County, it's very easy for Greater Richland Tourism to isolate on what attracts people to the area, put a message and a brand together, and market that, and it's working. It's, you know, I think the biggest thing is that we always want to make sure we are attracting more lodging guests. That is happening. All we have to do is talk to the lodging operators, and lodging throughout almost a whole year is very strong.
Yeah, those are some significant jumps, Marty. And you wonder, is it ever going to level off? I mean, you always want to do better than the previous year.
Oh, absolutely. But, yeah. Well, we've got a ceiling, right? Mm-hmm. Because I talked about the lodging situation.
Sure.
You know, we do have in Richland County quite a few private Airbnb properties type private lodging, but there's a ceiling on that because, you know, so there's a couple of things that happen that can make us hit that ceiling. Number one, we will have too few lodging options, which we're bordering on at this point.
Hopefully that's going to change.
Well, we hope, but you know, so in that discussion, remember, they're looking for an investor. And so they're putting an incentive package together. How do we attract an investor? Because I know I listened to the presentation from the Cobblestone folks, and you know, they expect, you know, in any place they've built a hotel, you know, their incentive package ended up being about 15% of the construction cost. That's how the world works, right? You know, if you get a sports team into your large city, you're going to give up at least 15%. So, you know, to get a 15% incentive for more, and like I said, I don't care who does it. As long as hotel rooms are built well and they're nice, they're attractive, I'm for it, and that it's operated well, I'm all in. And to help them with that effort at 15% one-time expenditure, I'm good, because we'll make that back, there's no doubt. So hotel rooms, lodging is a ceiling for us. There is also a ceiling on how many private lodging options we should have, because my ultimate goal, and I know for tourism, our ultimate goal is to have visitors come here, stay for a weekend, and go, wait a minute, this is an awesome place. And as broadband expands in Richland County, which it is expanding, and remember, whenever you see a report, they came out with the statewide report that Wisconsin lags in broadband access. Well, Richland County's improved drastically. And even now, I can take you and show you where actively right now they're still putting more broadband in some of these valley roads. That's the one negative of the driftless area. It didn't make it easy putting broadband in, right? So as that improves, people can start to place themselves living here and, you know, sending their kids to school here, spending their living dollars here, and move here. And that's ultimately our goal. So we want as many houses as possible available to those folks too. And housing is an issue. So we don't want to give up that ability to grow our residents at all. So then the second thing that concerns me quite a bit is, we are low on, I don't know how to phrase this. We are low on quality dining options at night. And what I mean by that is, it used to be we had the Black Cat, and we had Karen's Supper Club, and we had, the Manhattan, or, even though they weren't in Richland County, they were close by. We had supper clubs. You could throw a rock and it'd land close to a supper club. We do not have that anymore. And I've even had a local restaurateur who doesn't understand supper clubs, but he understands ethnic food, so he stays in his lane, right? He knows what that is, but has told me, he said, we need another nighttime dining option in downtown Richland Center because it would help his business. He sees that value of making a hub where people can come, stay, maybe enjoy other things around, but we need that additional dining option. And it doesn't have to be a French fancy restaurant that we think of. Honestly, if I had a blank checkbook, which my wife has done great work to make sure I don't have, if I had a blank checkbook with unlimited resources, I would come in, open up a retro steakhouse supper club. They have come back into vogue throughout the nation, basically, and it would be darkly lit, with a tabletop lamp and more of a maybe 4 people at a time or 2 people, kind of intimate, with the ability to do a bigger one, bigger tables, but it would be a steakhouse / supper club with that retro look from the 60s and 70s that you and I are familiar with.
Old school.
It is.
Put some paneling on the wall and the dogs playing cards on the picture.
Absolutely. And you sit down, the relish tray comes.
Yes.
They bring in old fashioned and you order steak. And that would do extremely well because not just in Richland County, but if you take a circle and start looking out how far to get to a true supper club, it's a drive. And, Green Acres in Sauk City is kind of one that comes to mind. But even that isn't quite in the ballpark of what I would envision. I think if anybody ever gets a chance, the Butterfly Club down by Janesville, Beloit area, we make a trip there simply because we go to the Butterfly Club. And it is throwback to 1970s supper club. They've got a 3-piece band playing that's playing Frank Sinatra songs. That's outstanding, and it's a great experience. And it's not just your age group, and we're in the same age group. It's not just our age group that is looking for that. The 21 to 35-year-olds are looking for that too. So it's a pretty wide band of folks. You go on Facebook. There's Facebook groups that share in Wisconsin where are the supper clubs at, and it's active, and it's kind of a cultish group, I'll be honest with you, because they have arguments over what's a supper club and what isn't, but that's a huge thing now. And so we're missing that and to the entrepreneur that's sitting there thinking about it, you don't have to be open every day of the week. If you were open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and maybe if you wanted to do a Sunday roasted chicken thing, fine, but you wouldn't even have to do Sunday. So that's an option we're missing. And I hear that from our visitors. They really wish, probably the comment that I hear most frequently is, we went to downtown Richland Center and we can see it's obvious that people are trying. And that's cool. We like what we see. Things are improving. They'd been here before. They said things are improving. I even had one that said, I want you to come, and I can't remember the name of the town in Illinois. There's a town in northern Illinois that they said, you are where our town was at 15 years ago. And our town kept fighting and came out of it and really has done well now. And we can see if your efforts continue and your local businesses continue, you'll make it, because you're located in a great area, and we love coming once a year. And they said, but dining option, more nighttime dining in this area. And again, doesn't have to be fancy, but a good steak, something where they can sit, relax, maybe listen to, I would call it kitschy, but it's not. It's that throwback three-piece band that can play Sinatra and Dean Martin stuff. And
my parents always loved going to Larry Bush back in the day. You know, when he would play wherever.
Yep. And I don't know that we have that band in this area at this point. I keep thinking about that. You know, we have some great live music artists, but I can't think of one.
No, we'll have to start one.
Yeah, I'm in.
We'll have to get better.
Get the kazoos out, and away we go.
Well, let's try it again. I think Bo's got the mouse running on the exercise wheel, so I think we'll be right back after these words. On the last segment of the morning show, to wrap up our conversation with Marty Richards from Greater Richland Tourism. Marty, as you look at some things and looking ahead toward 2025, anything you'd like to add here?
Yeah, well, I think still looking on the back in the rear. I had a boss once that had an affinity for bad sayings, and he would say, you know, if we're just one more look in the rear view mirror, and that means we're looking back, right, 2024. I do have to say, I really appreciate the tourism commissions and the townships in the city who have joined us with collecting room tax, have adopted the ordinance. It's really helped us to ramp up our marketing efforts. And really one fellow that deserves a lot of credit, Lenny Schaub. Lenny Schaub was involved with the Richland Center Tourism Commission since 2006. When the room tax was adopted. And he's my historian. And Lenny stepped off the Tourism Commission. He was the chair for quite a few years. He stepped off this spring, and so we miss him. But a lot of what you see happening was kind of the vision that Lenny had, along with Richland Center City Council, of growing the effort, growing the marketing campaign. And now, so at this time, you know, we have the city of Richland Center, who has adopted the room tax ordinance, town of Eagle, town of Ithaca, the town of Forest, Richland Township, and just recently Henrietta Township passed the room tax ordinance. And then also I'm talking with a couple of the villages that know they have short-term rentals in their areas, and they are looking at adopting the room tax as well. And that just gives us opportunity to tell more people about the area. So I just wanted to make sure we give some kudos to Lenny, because he's told me some stories about the beginning of trying to figure this thing out. And it was really under his guidance and vision that we are where we are today. And Lenny has traveled quite a bit, so it was nice. And that's the key. I really encourage everyone that you travel. You need to get out of what you see every day to understand why people would want to come to Richland County, where there's no amusement park. I just complained that we need more dining options. If you go on Facebook and social media, you'll hear how we don't have a grocery store, although I will argue you can get the best locally sourced food right here in Richland Center to go make your own meal, just like you would in a grocery store, only it's healthier. I mean, just step into the Richland Locker for a second. Go to the winter market. There's a winter market at the Richland Center Community Center every Wednesday from noon to 4 o'clock to get locally sourced foods. You can eat quite healthily just by what's produced here. It's just, do you have to go forage for it a little bit? Yeah, but so did our ancestors. They had to go forage, and in the winter they didn't have a source. They had to make sure they got everything before winter, right?
Make sure it was canned and whatever,
or salted, and I'll bet that tasted good in March. You know, but we can. We are blessed in this area with the ability to easily purchase locally sourced food that's healthier than that's in some of our food chain supplies. So I really encourage folks to kind of look around you, because that ability is there. And there's others. I'm just thinking of the winter market off the top of my head, and the Richland Center Locker. They both do just excellent work in having good locally sourced items for us. So
and ET Foods out in your area.
ET Foods is a good local small business.
Yep.
I mean, it's a big building, but small business. that really does a good job as well. And hey, while we're at it, John Soltwedel up in Casanova is probably sitting there going, dude,
there you go.
Do have a grocery store here.
Yeah, John listens. So.
Yeah, and you head up to Cas, and I've been to the store quite a bit, and there are times they have what I need that I couldn't get elsewhere. So it's worth the trip. But anyway, with all that said, we do have some really good things going on. And looking into 2025, I'm excited just to see Driftless Music Gardens. They've spread their dates out a little bit, and they moved one of their festivals into September, which I think was a really good idea because it gets kind of jammed up in the summer. And they were really making their season small by doing, June, July, August. Well, now they spread it out a little bit to where still the three big events, People Fest, Bonfire, and Boogie Down, but now they had moved one to September, which actually for lodging helps us because September, again, it's kind of like when Pumpkin Fest showed up, there was an idle time during that time frame where there weren't any events, and Pumpkin Fest is growing. Well, with Driftless Music Gardens moving one to September, I think that's going to help out a little bit and bring more people in because there aren't as many festivals during that time. Mm-hmm. So there's different things. I'd also give a shout out real quick. I'm excited to see what happens at the Willows. And I don't know if you're familiar, but the old 80 German farmhouse at the end of German Lane, the Huffman, Pizer families Nelsons are really doing a ton of work on that house. They expect that to be private lodging, which is a good use of a house because a private family was not going to buy that house to house their family and work in this area. That house is a jewel. It really should be on the National Historic Registry, but it was 80 Germans farmhouse, and they are looking at having an event space there as well, and so we're excited to see what comes in 2025 for them as well.
I'm glad you brought that up. I complimented him the other night because in my lifetime, I had never seen the cupola lit. Yeah. And I drove by the other night and the cupola up back in the valley was lit.
I think there are people that didn't know that house was there, quite honestly, until that. Mm-hmm. I've had some people mention, well, what's going on with that? What's that? I didn't know that house was there. I'm like, right. Oh my gosh, do you know the history of this?
So it'll be nice. And I don't think I've ever been in it, so it'll be nice to go back and
been
take
on the
a tour.
Doorstep, never in the house.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. We will. I know we've chats about it, and we are looking to do a video. Greater Richland Tourism will do a little bit of a behind the scenes video that we do, and you'll be able to go out on YouTube and see that.
Awesome. Thanks for coming in, Marty.
You bet. Thank you.
Merry
Phil.
Christmas to you.
Oh, yeah. Merry Christmas.
We'll talk to you in the new year. Marty Richards from Greater Richland Tourism joining us today on WRCO's Morning Show. Tomorrow, we'll talk to some students at Richland Center High School that are visiting us from all over the world.